Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we are diving into something super fascinating. We're looking at a recent alternative health broadcast and breaking down exactly how it keeps viewers on a very specific, carefully engineered journey. They use a classic marketing playbook called the Problem Agitation Solution Framework, and they use it to sell dietary supplements. We're going to map out how the host and guest organize their information to smoothly guide the audience from a place of really deep anxiety straight to a checkout cart.
So let's just ask the big, weird question right up front. How on earth does a broadcast seamlessly jump from discussing global fears about cancer directly to a daily kimchi probiotic pill? I mean, it sounds like a massive leap, right? But as we're about to see, it's not a random jump at all. It is a meticulously built bridge.
To see how they pull this off, we're going to break their strategy down into 5 quick phases. First, the rise in cancer cases, then claims about mRNA vaccines, questioning big pharma motives, concerns over ultra-processed food, and finally, the kimchi capsule solution. Let's get into it.
All right, kicking things off with Phase 1, the rise in cancer cases. In the marketing world, this is known as the problem phase.
Right out of the gate, this broadcast sets up a huge, high-stakes problem. And they do it by pointing to the recent cancer diagnoses of really public figures. They specifically call out folks like former U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi and Tulsi Gabbard's husband. By using fresh, recognizable names straight from this week's news cycle, they organically plant the idea that cancer is rapidly becoming more common. It suddenly takes a chronic, kind of abstract health fare and makes it feel like a spreading contagion right in the middle of our daily news.
Then the guest backs up those personal stories with some massive, frankly scary scale. They cite a staggering 42% rise in global cancer incidence over the last measured decade. To put that in perspective, they're talking about global cases jumping from 14.1 million to 20 million every single year, noting that deaths have basically doubled since the 1980s. Stacking those highly personal stories on top of 20 million case statistics firmly establishes the problem. As a viewer, you're completely primed at this point to ask, wait, why is this happening? Which brings us to Phase 2, claims about mRNA vaccines. This is the agitation phase. Now, to really agitate this problem, the broadcast highlights a recent Senate committee hearing to create some intense cognitive dissonance. They talk about Senator Richard Blumenthal citing a massive JAMA study that argues mRNA vaccines actually lower cancer risk. But the guest instantly goes on the offensive, claiming expert witnesses at that exact same hearing presented studies linking those vaccines directly to cancer, and alleging that those experts are now being targeted for speaking out. It's a really specific structural move. It tells the viewer right away that traditional medical authorities absolutely cannot be trusted.
To dial up that agitation even more, the guest unleashes this absolute barrage of severe side effects they attribute to the vaccine. We're talking myocarditis, severe blood pressure spikes, blood clotting, neurological conditions, autoimmune disorders, the whole shebang. The strategy here is literally to overwhelm you. The guest argues that this massive wave of inflammation ultimately leads to cancer. By casting such a wide net, suddenly any random mysterious health issue you might be having could be traced back to this one big fear.
And then they deliver the emotional core of this whole agitation phase. They share this tragic news story about a 28-year-old pregnant woman named Lacey who passed away from leukemia just one day after being diagnosed. She thought she was just having normal pregnancy or flu symptoms. Relying on devastating anecdotal evidence like this makes the medical anxiety incredibly personal. It takes those giant global statistics we just talked about and puts a very real, very heartbreaking human face on them.
Moving on to Phase 3, questioning big pharma motives. This is where they deepen the agitation.
So now the broadcast shifts its crosshairs away from the treatments and points them directly at the massive corporations making them. They play a clip of Moderna's CEO discussing a localized 157-person Phase 2 trial for individualized mRNA cancer treatments. But rather than framing this as an innovation, the hosts openly mock the small scale of the trial and the CEO's demeanor. They frame the CEO as totally out of touch, basically positioning themselves as the real truth-tellers looking out for the little guy. The argument is that pharmaceutical companies are just pushing more mRNA tech to cure the exact problems they supposedly caused in the first place.
And the guest sums up all this institutional distrust with a really powerful, sticky phrase. They claim America doesn't actually have a healthcare system, but rather a sick care system. They argue the whole industry is designed to turn a massive profit by keeping patients stuck on a gerbil wheel of endless prescriptions rather than actually curing anybody. Boom. The agitation phase is complete. The problem is huge, the alleged cause is everywhere, and the institutions meant to help you are framed as completely corrupt.
Now for Phase 4, ultra-processed food concerns. Here is where we pivot to lifestyle. With that massive institutional distrust firmly in place, the conversation introduces a new villain, ultra-processed foods. The guest mentions a recent legal block on efforts by figures like RFKJr. And Dr. Oz, who were trying to remove ultra-processed high-sugar foods from SNAP benefits. They use this legal ruling as proof that the system actively wants to force citizens to eat garbage and stay sick. It's honestly a brilliant pivot. It takes the anxiety out of the doctor's office and drops it right onto your kitchen counter. It makes the threat feel constant, but also like something you can actually try to control.
And that sets the stage perfectly for Phase 5, the kimchi capsule solution. Welcome to the solution phase.
Okay, the trap has been set, and here comes the hero of our story. The guest brings up a study on kimchi that acts like a beacon of hope against all this fear. They specifically zero in on the lactic acid bacteria found in it. They claim this bacteria does it all. It suppresses carcinogen-activating enzymes, it boosts the immune system to fight off pathogens, and it even lowers cholesterol. Notice how every single one of those benefits is an exact, tailor-made antidote to the threats they just spent half an hour building up. The solution is framed as this perfect, natural rebellion against the sick care system.
But hey, let's be real. Eating a bowl of fermented cabbage every single day is pretty tough for most of us. And that is exactly where their own product comes in, Kimchi One capsules. Watch the narrative shift right here. They completely bypass all the dense scientific jargon they were using earlier and pivot purely to personal testimonials. Suddenly we're talking about clearing up skin, losing brain fog, having great digestion, and getting enough energy to deal with the in-laws. The giant, terrifying global crisis has officially been met with a super convenient, personalized lifestyle product.
So after an entire broadcast of building up all this heavy anxiety, the relief is finally monetized. Viewers are hip with this super efficient, multi-tiered call to action. You can use a promo code for 25% off or call a toll-free number for up to 50% off and free shipping. They even throw in a scarcity tactic, saying the first 100 callers get a free bottle of a bonus turmeric supplement called Thrive. It is a step-by-step funnel flawlessly designed to turn your anxiety into an immediate purchase.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to really think about the architecture of what we just looked at. Moving from global cancer statistics and political hearings all the way down to a promo code for a probiotic pill, none of that is an accident. It is incredibly intentional. How does this problem, agitation, solution playbook shape the media you consume every day? And even more importantly, how does it influence the solutions you ultimately choose to trust? Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and I'll catch you in the next one.